Back down in the centre of town we visit Food Street. This was really something of a tourist trap, and the only restaurant we found that we really enjoyed was the Houston restaurant on the right hand side of the picture, close up coming up, where we used to go for breakfast. But the restaurants surrounding the Food Street area were good. And talking about food, where better to go than the harbour in Aberdeen, where the famous floating restaurants have held sway for many years. Aberdeen was, and still is to some extent, a fishing village, but has become over the years a tourist attraction mainly because of its floating restaurants. But it has also attracted a certain amount of residential property building, and quite a number of high-rise blocks now dominate the harbour. It's a busy harbour with small water buses and little sampans chuntering across to and from the boatyards on either side of the harbour and to and from the floating restaurants. Here we see a tug bringing wood to the shipyards for the building and the repair of sampans, and there goes a water bus. The be-all and end-all of Aberdeen Harbour's existence for the last few years has been the floating restaurants. Even the junks that we see here in close-up and the smaller boats have taken second place to the dominance of the two main floating restaurants. Notice that when the junks are in being repaired and refurbished in the boatyards, the families still remain on board and carry on living as normal. Close-up of the front of one of the floating restaurants, the Jumbo, and moored in front of it, its little ferry boats that ply back and forwards to shore, bringing the patrons to and from the restaurants. They're a very attractive sight at night, but during the day they're quite nice looking too. They're well decorated. Delivery boats take the place of delivery trucks on shore, and we're being watched. In fact, we're being watched by a young tourist with a pair of binoculars. Friendly eye being kept on proceedings by the marine police. Another water bus or sampan. During the day they seem to earn their money mostly from tourists. And well, restaurants have kitchens, and floating restaurants, I suppose, must have floating kitchens. These are the kitchens at the back of the Taipan, one of the floating restaurants, and there's the kitchen at the back of the Jumbo. A shot of Aberdeen, the modern Aberdeen, and the high-rise houses and high-rise flats and buildings that have taken the place of the old low-rise shops and small blocks of flats and houses that were previously occupied by the community that lived off the fishing fleet. A small cruise through the world of the sampans, and in a moment here she comes. They rush out with their little what look like butterfly nets, but in fact they are expecting you to toss coins, small coins, at them so that they can catch them and make a little bit of profit. It's like a crossroads. Back on shore we have a closer look at one of the small boatyards. And I suppose this could be described as the estate, the workers' estate, adjoining their place of work. If you live in a boat and you go to school, then I suppose you have to go to school by boat, even though you don't seem to be very enthusiastic about it. No, she's not waving us goodbye. She wants us to board her boat and go for a trip through the harbour. If you're a Chinese dog, I suppose you have to look inscrutable. This old boy mending his nets looks almost anachronistic. It seems strange that this sort of way of earning your living should still exist. In fact, this part of the harbour looks like the harbour did 30-40 years ago, before the advent of high-rise buildings, when Aberdeen was known purely as a builder's yard and a fishing port. The jumbo ferry ferrying the faster today's patrons out to the floating restaurant for lunch. This is the main street of Aberdeen with the undercover shops and the market. On reflection, I think I'm glad I didn't eat at the floating restaurants, although I'm told that they mainly serve fish. If you've seen this lot, I'm not surprised.